welcome to a Chicago remote edition of the Ad Podcast. We're getting one more show in before we blow this town and get back to San Diego. But we've got a really fun guest for you guys right in time for playoff and Super Bowl season. So April Guidone is the Chief Operations Officer of SMAC Entertainment. They're a talent management, brand incubator, licensing and content company co-founded by Michael Strahan and Constance Schwartz-Morini. She oversees the company's overall business strategy, including revenue growth, brand development, talent management, and content production. Guidone has a background in global brand and business development from her time as an SVP at IMG Fashion and earlier roles in media and event production. She has played key roles in expanding SMAC's portfolio and strategic partnerships across entertainment and sports. We're also joined by Jose Diaz. Jose Diaz is the EVP of Strategic Partnerships and Communications at SMAC, where he leads talent management, brand partnerships, content development, and media strategy. With over a decade of experience in entertainment and sports, consumer culture, Diaz has worked closely with high-profile talent and helps produce and grow multi-platform initiatives, including TV, branded ventures, and he is a USC graduate and based in Los Angeles. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate you coming on. And let's talk sports marketing and sports entrepreneurship before we jump into Super Bowl season. So I know I gave a little bit of the official backstory as it's pertained from, ChatGPT, but why don't you guys tell me the real, like, how'd you guys get into this world of sports and entertainment marketing? Where'd you guys grow up? Where'd you study? And how'd you get into sports?
Sure. I'll kick it off, and thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. Where'd I grow up? Connecticut. I grew up in Wallingford, Connecticut, a little town past New Haven, but I went to school at NYU. And when I first got to NYU, I had a bit of a panic my freshman year that I had to figure out the rest of my life now that I was in college, which is definitely not true. You don't have to do that. But I started interning immediately my second semester freshman year. But I started building my network by doing that, which was great. And then by the time I graduated, started working, I spent a lot of time at Condé Nast. Glamour magazine, Details, and Self magazine. And at the time, that was a really incredible place to work. I'm sure it still is now, but it's a different company than it was back then when print was a little bit more relevant. So a lot of best practices and a lot of learning going on. So I was in this fashion world. From there, went to Grey Group for a bit, a few other places, and then landed at IMG, overseeing fashion weeks globally for IMG. So New York Fashion Week, Shenzhen Fashion Week in China, Tokyo Fashion Week, and Australia Fashion Week in Sydney. So that was an incredible experience as well. We had actually a lot of business coming out of China for New York Fashion Week as well. So I was driving revenue. I was basically leaning into an operations role. I started as marketing and sales, and then started sort of finding efficiencies across the entire company and across all of those events. And when I came in, it was a loss leader for the company. And right before COVID, was able to get it profitable, and then everything sort of disappeared. But I'm an athlete at heart. I grew up playing sports. I played tennis for NYU. I still play tennis. I played actually Pop Warner football when I was a kid. So I've been a Giants fan my whole life. So the whole goal was to get into sports. When I was at IMG, I was crossing sports and fashion over with our brand partnerships. So coming to SMAC was just cosmic, because it sort of hits all of my experience from content to fashion to talent and sports and entertainment. So through all of the relationships that I had, I ended up landing here, and it was a perfect spot for me.
I love it. Well, I want to ask you more about IMG and the Fashion Week stuff, because I always think of IMG as a sports, representation agency. So
Sure.
That's interesting that they were running all these Fashion Week programs around the world.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
All right, Jose, how about you?
Well, hey, Dylan, thanks for having us. Excited about today. My journey is a little bit different. I grew up in the Bay Area, so I'm excited about Super Bowl 60 heading back to my home.
Let's go.
Excited to go back. also gives me a chance to see the family a little bit. So take every opportunity I can there. But I actually started my career in LA. I went to USC, as you mentioned. I wanted to be a tour manager. I wanted to be on the road with music artists. I wanted to just, live that life, that excitement. And so during college, I got connected to Constance. She was at the firm, which is a big management company. And she was a music manager. Not quite a tour manager, but I was like, you know what? I need, to April's point, I needed an internship.
Yeah, I remember the firm that turned into Studio 71 and Reza and that whole creator economy stuff, right?
It's changed a lot. Yeah, and so I interned for Constance because she managed Snoop Dogg. I was like, you know what?
Oh.
That's going to be a great thing on my resume. Why not? Very quickly, I discovered tour managers I'm not destined to be a tour manager. Living on a tour bus is not quite for me. But Constance, prior to joining the firm, had spent almost a decade or over a decade at the NFL. And so when she left the firm, I went with her, still as her intern originally. And we went to what's now LBI. And then after she left LBI, she started her own company. I truly took a leap of faith. I had no idea. She's like, "Do you want a job?" I said, "Sure." I didn't know about benefits. I didn't know about the possibility of companies going under. I just took that blind leap and worked out of her kitchen table for the first couple months of the first year that she launched the company. And I've been here ever since. I went from intern to her assistant to Michael getting live with Kelly and Michael and moving to New York and him asking me to help him out there and launch our New York office, to brand partnerships, which I did not want to go into. I went kicking and screaming because I had no idea what that meant, to overseeing the partnerships division, to now overseeing both the talent partnerships, our comm strategy as well. So April's had multiple experiences. I've just pretty much stuck with one company and seen it grow from 2 employees at a kitchen table to now 2 offices, 3 divisions, 25 plus employees, 25 clients, not just sports, but really, what SMAC stands for, sports, music, and culture. And so it's really exciting.
I love that.
Even though I'm not a tour manager or in the music, we still touch a little bit of music. I'm definitely much more sports heavy, but it's been a fun journey.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny what we glamorize and fantasize about in college, and then we get a little peek under the hood of what it actually looks like, and things kind of change. I had a similar experience. I was the first intern at Howard Bragman's startup PR firm when he sold BNC to Interpublic, and I worked out of his guest house, luckily not out of his kitchen table. But starting 15 minutes and kind of going from a big company to a company of 1 or 1.5, I would suppose, is kind of it's a wild thing. But I've stayed entrepreneurial and done those smaller things ever since. So love that story. So I'm just coming off of CES. A great activation at CES that I'm sure you guys are aware of is Stagwell Sport Beach. They are really leaning into that, and I feel like the industry at large is, especially this idea that sports marketing or athletes are the media channel now. It's not like you have to go do a deal with, a league or a team. Of course, those deals still get done, but athletes are so multidimensional now with their name and likeness opportunities and the opportunities to get awareness inside of the sports that they play, but then all of these other dimensions of who they are as people, whether they are in the video games and streaming, or whether they have a podcast, or whether they have a production company, or whether they have a tequila line or a sportswear company. All feel like athletes now are these multi-dimensional 360 activation, media content, all these partnerships that brands can really take in so many different directions. So I wonder if you guys could maybe comment on how you've seen that dovetail in your business as you've spent these decades inside of the sports marketing and the music marketing world, and how those intersections have kind of come into fruition, but more importantly, like how brands work with athletes these days from that multidimensional perspective.
Yeah, first of all, Sports Beach is great. We know that team Beth and Damien and Glenn extremely well. And we had the fortune to be part of the first sports beach. And so, walking along the Cosette and just seeing that the impact that sport was having and the long lines and people wanting to learn more was shocking to me that it wasn't done before. I mean, Cannes Lions just announced that they have a sports track this year. So it even shows you, the impact that sports has. And for me, sports has always been always a driver for live events. That's the first thing. Whenever it was the global pandemic or 9/11, what was the first thing we looked to was sports. Sports brought us together, and I think that whether whatever political spectrum you are, you still cheer for the same teams, you boo the same teams. Whether you're a Packers fan or a Bears fan, your allegiances are to those clubs when it comes to sports, and it's really exciting to see that. That commodity, that community. And so I think brands are recognizing that. I think they're giving athletes more of a platform. They're not just here to play the sport. They're really full 365 days a year, creating that impact for their brands or connections. We joke with the NFL. I'm like, what day? When are you guys going to take over Tuesday? Because they've taken up pretty much a year-round event. It used to be when I first started, as soon as Super Bowl was done, we had a long break. Yes, there was combine. Yes, there was draft. But it was a little bit. Now it's you go straight from Super Bowl to combine to draft, and those have become big tentpole events, allowing our clients to have connections with their consumers, with their fans, at all points of the year, which I think is exciting for the industry. April, I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, and from the multi-hyphenate standpoint, we have clients that are interested in off field. They're interested in fashion and food, and they're multi-dimensional people, just like their audiences. So brands are leaning into that and not just working with our clients because of who they are on the field, but who they are off the field as well. And that's something that we help them develop, but it's something that everyone is thinking about now. Athletes are thinking about early. And we're helping them develop that, and then the brands are recognizing that, and then we make the sort of the connectivity between it all for that depth of storytelling in that partnership.
Yeah, I love that. And Jose, to your point about sports and specifically NFL being a 365-day-a-year partner now, one of the things that I have noticed is I was at London Travel Week and interviewing the head of the travel consulate for Sao Paulo in Brazil. And one of the things that they were very proud of and really thumping their chests about was the fact that they had brought an NFL down to Sao Paulo in Brazil, during the off season, and they had the team coming down there and doing exhibitions. And then I saw, a friend of mine from the Rams, she was out in Australia and, in London with the team. So it seems like there's a lot of international focus, whether it's scrimmages or exhibitions or standing up new leagues and new opportunities for NFL, but other sports as well. Can you talk a little bit to the international marketing opportunities within sports and exporting American culture, American sports to those markets? But then we're also importing sport culture with F1 and World Cup this year. So can you talk about sports as a global marketing opportunity versus a regional or national opportunity?
Yeah, and you can't forget about flag football. I think flag is growing so fast. Not just here, it's there's a drive to make flag football a high school varsity sport, a sanctioned sport. I also make it an NCAA Division I sport. There is that drive for that, but it's growing so fast. Mexico, the women's national team of Mexico just got ranked #1 as the #1 global team. It's not a U.S. team. And, we represent Deanna Flores. So we've seen the journey. We've worked with her for a few years now. We've seen where it started. We've seen where it's going. So that to me is exciting. We started working with her, and primarily we're originally getting very Spanish language focused campaigns, very much brands focused in LATAM or Mexico. But now we're seeing brands like Oakley and Under Armour and Invisalign putting their dollars. One of my proudest moments this past season, was seeing Deanna as the female face of football along with Justin Jefferson for Oakley. They're putting flag football in an international athlete on the same par as an American football player. And I think that just goes to show you the power that the sport has. It's played by 100 million people over dozens of countries around the world. So it is incredible to see that. I mean, in less than 2 years, or we'll have them at the Olympics. So even bringing that sport globally, I think is incredible. And April, I know you've been working in the flag space quite a bit. I think you even played. You played tackle.
I played both. I played
Let's
tackle
go.
for a couple of years when I was a kid, and flag for about 12 years here in New York. Just like Zog sports, stuff like that, which was so fun. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to date myself, but growing up, the NFL, well, I should say American football, tried to go international with the World League that launched and folded a couple of times. And so I sort of watched that happen. And I'm so happy to see it sort of taking hold now. And I think the world has changed. Obviously, we're all connected in a different way, on our phones, et cetera, through content, social media. So the world is primed. It was probably just a little bit too early when they were launching those international leagues. So it's really nice to be able to see that NFL is going global. Obviously, NBA has been doing it for a long time already. And I think that, American football, traditionally tackle football, is a little bit not as accessible as flag, which is also great to be able to see that take off globally. And between the two of those growing, there's so much opportunity for our clients as well to develop audiences. Globally, we have also Wear by Erin Andrews, which is women's fan apparel that we're starting to sell internationally as well. So it's just sort of opening up this whole new audience across the board.
Love it. Go ahead, Jose.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think some of our brand partners are also leaning in.
Mm-hmm.
Under Armour, we're about to do our third international flag football camp for women, for young girls ages 14 to 18. It's Deanna's flag football camp in Mexico City. We're talking about expanding that. Deanna has gone to Morocco and done on her own terms a flag football camp for girls. And there was a lot of nuances because they weren't necessarily allowed to officially have an event or a flag football camp there, because she even gave her shoes to a participant just because for her, it's how does sports reach beyond these borders? How do we bring this community of young athletes together? And so I really do see our partners, whether it's Under Armour or Oakley, really investing in that. And I think as long as they're invested in it, they're really helping drive the mission that Deanna has to bring that sport globally. And ultimately, it's obviously what the league is trying to do as well.
That's cool. So April, I want to go back to that IMG Fashion Week experience you had. And obviously you started, even when running those fashion weeks, tapping into the IMG roster and bringing athletes into the world of fashion. We've always kind of seen certain athletes are fashion icons and fashion forward, off the field. But how do you see the world of fashion and sports colliding in the current ecosystem?
Yeah, over the years, being at New York Fashion Week and Global Fashion Weeks too, but more so New York Fashion Week, the athletes were in the front row, and we noticed that super early on. And I got there in like 2015, so we started working with clients to cross over. Visa was actually the first client. Well, I shouldn't say that. Etihad was actually the first client where we crossed over fashion and sport. Because these brands were working and partnering with sport in silos. So they had their fashion platform over here, and they had their, Etihad specifically had their Formula One platform over here, and they weren't talking to each other. But the audiences like both of those things. They're dynamic, like I was saying, just like our clients. So we went to them to say, you should be mixing this all together. So we ended up being the last year they had Grid Girls at Formula One, but we had Prabal Gurung come out to the race in Abu Dhabi, and he did the uniforms for the Grid Girls, and we debuted that and ended up having a big party there. And then we brought like a Lewis Hamilton to New York Fashion Week and connected the dots there. And we did that with Visa and the NFL, bringing fashion to Super Bowl experience and bringing Saquon Barkley and some of their Olympic athletes to New York Fashion Week for talks and for an installation. So This is a trend that's been happening, and we're seeing more and more, even NFL and other athletes at European Fashion Week. Stephon Diggs is on the runway and he's in the front row in Milan and in Paris. So, the tunnel walks, it's just with all eyes on these players. They have their fashion sense and they want to show it off. Actually, every week before the game, the Patriots are showing like what Stephon's wearing, because this is their stage, this is their runway. So, they want to lean in. They're dynamic people. They want to show it off. So it's happening and it's growing.
It's not quite a catwalk yet, but we'll see what happens, right? All right. With you guys operating in the kind of the intersection of sports media and culture, that puts you guys kind of square in the bull's eye of most of the major marketing moments within culture, whether it's Super Bowl, whether it is things like the Grammys or, moments like a South by Southwest or an Art Basel. So how do you guys choose what cultural moments to lean into and which ones to maybe not spend as much attention with when you guys are playing in so many buckets?
It has to be authentic. And we have to see, are these cultural moments, is there depth to it and meaning for our clients? And for example, again, like Steph's a great example because he is involved in a lot of things off the field, but he goes to Art Basel, he's designing furniture down there. So we're leaning into that with him. So we're looking at the calendar to see where are our clients' interests, where do their audiences know them for several things, where is their passion, and how do we then connect that to these moments? Who are we bringing to Cannes Lions, for example? Who's going to resonate with the audience that's there? We have to make sure there's a depth to the strategies that we have for our clients, and you don't have to tie yourself to every cultural moment. It's not going to feel right. The audiences can see right through that. So it has to have some tangible meaning behind it.
Love it. And then Jose, when you're thinking about working with a client in launching a brand, how do you approach that in a way that's different than an endorsement deal? And what should athletes be thinking about, like when they, start to spin the mental Rolodex of like, oh, I want to launch a product, I want to launch a brand, but I don't quite know exactly what I want to do. Like, how do you guide a client through that process of figuring out where to start when they want to go direct to consumer and launch their own brand?
Well, everyone wants to launch their own brand. I feel like we went through that phase where there was no celebrity brands. And I think every category has a celebrity brand. And I think that I love that it shows the entrepreneurial spirit and what these athletes are trying to do outside of the court or the field. But it's tough. I think the first and foremost is us communicating that it's not easy. Constance, April, and I all have this kind of motto of like, we're either dream makers or dream killers. Like, I think there's an aspect of bringing the reality to it and the challenges that you're going to face. We're not here as managers to be yes people. We're here to give you the realities and help you achieve that goal. But at the same time, we are going to tell you the what's in store for you or what the challenges are that we have to overcome. And I think that's something that, we really pride ourselves in. But we do have opportunities. Erin saw a white space in the female sports apparel line. The NFL does a lot of great things. They invited Erin to a fashion show, Super Bowl 50, actually 10 years ago in San Francisco. Erin hosted the event, noticed that the items she had to wear, which was NFL branded, were not necessarily reflective of her own personal style. She said, it's not reflective of my style. It's not reflective of my friend's style. There's a market that's missing. How do we make female sports apparel more fashionable? Forget the pink it and shrink it model, which definitely was very prevalent a decade ago. So it took us a couple years. I think it took us over 3 years, but Super Bowl 50 is where it started, the idea. Erin, another colleague, and myself went to a restaurant in San Francisco and we're doodling on napkins the logo and the idea and inspiration, but she saw a vision and a place where she could make an impact. And now it's one of the most successful women's apparel line, and we have multiple leagues, women leagues that you can think of. We started off with 9 SKUs with just the NFL to now I think there's hundreds of SKUs across the leagues, which is incredible, and for the success in less than a decade. But it was authentic to her. She's like, I'm a sports fan. Her husband's a Stanley Cup winner. She's on the sideline. She's like, I want to show my fandom, but I also want to be stylish. So she definitely saw that aspect. The other authentic moment, which is also one of my favorites over the last years, was Dion and the Blender sunglasses.
I saw those. Yeah, we have a Blenders store in Encinitas. It's one of the few flagship stores, and those were all over the displays. That was awesome.
Well, he was a big sunglass person. You saw him on the sidelines. You saw him with sunglasses. So one of his first ideas was, I want my own sunglass line. So April and the team really went out to try to find a partner in that space. And it's fun. I'll let April dive into a little bit of the timing, but it was really serendipitous of how everything came out, because we've been planning for months. But when an opportunity strikes, we took advantage of it and changed our launch plan. If you don't recall, like, there was a comment made by an opposing coach about sunglasses that included sunglasses in there, and we just took off with that, and it created the first weekend alone, I think over 4 million in sales of just sunglasses. But it all goes back to that authenticity moment. Erin was so authentic with her passion of being a fan, a female fan in sports, as she wanted to be catered and have options to. Dion wears sunglasses. He has that swag, that cool factor. He wanted to make sure to bring that to an audience. But April, I think it'll be great if you kind of share some of that timeline. It's pretty fun story there.
Yes. Yeah. I want to also tap on a point that you mentioned too. Yes, the authenticity to the client, but also, is there actually a market opportunity? We're launching brands. If you wouldn't launch the brand without the celebrity attached, you shouldn't launch the brand with the celebrity attached. So you have to do that market research to make sure that, the market wants it and there's an audience there and an appetite for it. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. And Aaron's a great example of that. Dion, too. I mean, his sunglasses are so specific to him, and he designed it, and he's involved in the creative process. So that there was an opening for that to happen, for him to bring his own personal style. So back in 2003, I'll just get into the story a little bit. I'll try to give the elevator pitch version. But, we had done the partnership with Blenders. It wasn't out yet. And Dion was going into his first season at CU as coach. So all eyes were on him. I mean, I'm sure most of you remember all of the hype and all the attention that they were getting. So we were planning on soft launching the sunglasses with Blenders in sort of mid-October. We were going to do it on social. That made the most sense. Dion's all over social. And then it was the lead up to the Colorado State, Colorado University game in early October. It was the 4th game of the season. The Thursday before, in a press conference, a Colorado State coach says, well, my mom taught me to take off my hat and my glasses when I'm talking to grownups. And obviously that was a dig at Dion, because he's always has sunglasses, but this is what he's known for. Well, the SMAC team heard that, and we were like, oh boy, it is go time. He just teed this up. I can't believe that just happened. And so instead of our soft launch that was happening in a week or two, we pivoted completely, put a whole new plan together to get a press release out. Jose, you can tell that in a minute, what Jose was going through when that press release was getting put together. We got samples to give away to the entire team the next day. So that would happen on a Thursday. Friday is when Coach does all the press for the lead up to the Saturday game. And we called Blenders. We got the site up for pre-order immediately. So this is all in less than 24 hours. The next day, Coach hands out the sunglasses to the entire team. We're recording it. And he's basically saying, it's not personal, it's business. And we launched it right off the back of him saying that. And then he's on College Game Day, and The Rock is wearing them, and DJ Khaled wants them. Everyone wants them. It just blew up. It was the most incredible serendipitous marketing opportunity that I've seen in my career. It was amazing.
It was once in a lifetime. It was lightning truly captured in a bottle. What April's referring to is I was driving from LA to Palm Springs, and it happened on a Thursday, and we need to review this press release. I need to give notes and feedback. In hindsight, could I have just pulled over, reviewed it, notes? Absolutely. I don't know why I wasn't thinking in that moment.
You're just in the moment reacting. It was wild.
But as I was driving, I literally had my team read me line by line on the press release, change this, change that word, add this quote. It was insane, but it really showed the collaborative nature of not just our SMAC team activating immediately, but our partners with blenders and everyone just being 100% in when they saw this was an opportunity we couldn't miss.
Yeah, I love that story. I want to spend a little bit of time on Dion because I think he's such an interesting case study in sports right now. So, what do you guys think about this phenomenon of, like he brings this whole media brand and this media engine to Colorado, and like how does that have an impact on the school, the name and likeness opportunities, recruitment? It feels like now, coaches that aren't socially adept, it's a little, Dion has an advantage because he was a player before he came to school as a coach and built up his name and likeness ahead of time. But how important is like building your personal brand, having that social presence? Will that be a factor in kind of coaching decisions moving forward, both from the perspective of collegiate and NFL, with how important like NIL is becoming to the recruitment issue efforts at Division I schools and inside of the college market?
We have to remember, Dion's probably the original marketer when it comes to athletes. Go back to him in the 90s as he was a legendary and iconic two-sport athlete. He made his brand. He's publicly talked about how there is the Dion persona, and that's who he is, and there's the Prime persona, the character he created. Dion is extremely introverted. If you ever meet him on set, I always give our partners a little bit of a heads up. Hey, he might be quiet, nothing to be alarmed. But the minute the red light on the camera goes on, he's primed, he's ready to go. And so he's been marketing himself since the 90s. And that was a way, back then, his position wasn't making the dollars that they are now. And that was his way of ensuring financial stability for him, his family. He promised his mom she would never have to work another day in her life. And that was his way of ensuring that it had your attention, that it had the brand's attention, that had the league's attention. And I think what's happening now is just an extension. He's doing, the negativity or feedback or blowback, however you want to phrase it, is there because it's just something different that people aren't accustomed to. It's not bad. It's just a different way of doing it. He likes transparency. He likes to give you an insight, and it's resonating. And so I think coaches and other college football programs have to pay attention of this. It is a recruitment tool. Having that access to social, having an insight. He highlights his team when it's necessary, when he feels like they've deserved it. He highlights what they're doing. It's giving a platform for his players that wouldn't necessarily have. And so I think other organizations have to be mindful of that. And even if they don't like it, this is the way the world is moving. NFL players are posting constantly. YouTube is a big partner of the league. I mean, they have a Sunday ticket. It is changing. So we have to be open to it. And so I just don't understand. I guess when change happens, there's always a little bit of caution and resistance, but it is the way of the world now. We all live on our phone. I think I wake up looking at my phone. I shouldn't on social media. So like we're all in that world. And I think it's who we are. And it is providing more opportunities for these players.
I love it. Can you talk a little bit about the idea of partnerships as it pertains to like launching a brand? Because you guys decided to go to blenders through, some type of strategic decision making, and not only leverage their manufacturing prowess, but also, their brand. You could have very easily gone and found a manufacturer in, somewhere overseas and just made your own sunglasses. What goes into the calculus when you decide to do more of a partnership versus standing up a brand on your own and sourcing the manufacturing and doing kind of everything soup to nuts with an athlete-led brand?
There's when you're partnering with a brand, there's sort of the immediate infrastructure that's there. So you're sort of cutting through a lot of the development and the establishment of the manufacturing and the sales at retail. So you're cutting your development time probably to about a quarter of what it would take to launch and develop your own line. So we have to be able to evaluate the speed to market. For someone like Dion, that made sense for us to partner with an existing brand. Blenders specifically was very in line with Dion and his values and the price point for his audience and all of those things. So that really made sense for us versus if we were to develop, especially sunglasses, that's about 1.5 years of development and manufacturing time to be able to get them out there and into the market. When you're partnering with someone who's established, you already have those distribution channels set up as well. So for something like this, it made sense for us, and we're continuing to expand. And they're real partners. They really get what we're doing, who Dion is. They give creative freedom. And so we're building this business together of Prime Sunglasses. But then you have, an Aaron Andrews. There wasn't necessarily someone to partner with. This was something that was pretty original, the white space, and we wanted to take it on and build it. And the speed to market wasn't as important because we were developing a new product that didn't necessarily exist yet. Now there's a lot of competition and so many people are in the game. And we like to, share that we're the, kind of one of the originals. I'll say there were a few out there, but we're still here and we're still building and, opened up the market to everyone else. So yeah, we have to evaluate all of those things, when we're deciding whether to partner or to build our own brand.
The other thing I will add, sometimes it's a no. We get a no from partners and we don't take no for an answer. With Aaron and Ware, April kind of alluded to it. We got told no multiple times, but we were so passionate. We saw the vision. We saw that space that was available and the connection with Aaron that we're like, if no one else is going to do it, we're going to figure out a way to do it. So sometimes it's taking that no and just keep going. I'm sure some of those partners regret those no's now, but it was a motivating factor for us. The other aspect, and you kind of alluded this to earlier, Dylan, is like where athletes are moving into launching their own brand. The ownership and IP, retaining products is becoming more and more increasingly important to our clients. It is something that they're looking for, the long-term investment.
They want the equity piece and the opportunity for an exit, not just a partnership, not just a license.
They're not just athletes, they're entrepreneurs. They're really looking at what's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line. What am I building? What is the foundation that I'm building today for when I really retire? Not retire from playing, but retire. And so I think that's what we're trying to set up our clients. And sometimes it's a mixture of both. We do need our current brand partners to give us the opportunity to really develop and lead to create a new product down the line. Because that takes a lot more time, like April was talking about. It is the existing infrastructure. But sometimes we have a partner that just makes sense in the moment. I want to flag about Dion's Depend partnership. I don't know if you all know, but in the summer, he announced that he had bladder cancer. Part of his journey, he had two options: either 3 years of constant chemotherapy and radiation every other month or so, or remove his bladder and use part of his intestine to build a new bladder. But with that comes a lot of incontinence issues. And so he was forced to wear Depend. And so I got a call from Dion. Constance and I got this call, was like, I want to partner with Depend. And Constance already knew right off the bat. She's like, I knew it. Let's do it. She had already prepped me. She's like, I think this is coming. I called our partners at Kimberly-Clark and their agency, and really working overnight on Sunday, trying to land a deal, where the next day where he announced the Depend partnership was I depend on Depend was his line. And it was so authentic. There was no other product he was using at that time. Like that was our partner. They came in. But the reaction that he got, and of course for a moment there, I was like, am I cheapening his brand? Am I advising the right direction? I know this is what he wants. I know this is what Constance wants. But ultimately the reaction, the destigmatization of the partnership, like there's such a stigma with this kind of product. But I had people come up to us and say, because of Dion, you're making my dad, my mom be much more willing to use this product. And so it's giving it's part of life. It's part of his journey, will always be part of his journey. And I think that those are like interesting partners that we couldn't replicate in such a short time. Like that was something that we had to stick with in a pre-existing brand.
Yeah, what a great example of turning, bad news into something positive too, right? Like whether you said it's, whether it's impacting perception or, making it less stigmatized, that's a really great example. I love that. All right. Well, great timing to have you guys on a few weeks out from Super Bowl. So what can we expect from you guys? What do you guys have going on in and around the Super Bowl? And what should folks who are marketers who watch the show maybe keep an eye out for, either to experience themselves or maybe even reach out to you guys to partner on?
Well, Super Bowl is also one of our busiest time of the year. It's exciting. I'm excited to go back to the Bay Area, but we are launching a few things. The first one is we have a project with BET, the Michael Vick experience, very similar to what we did with Coach Prime, and capturing his time at Colorado that became a 3-season docu-series over 3 years. We're doing the same with BET. We followed Michael Vick through his first year of coaching at Norfolk State, and just really capturing what his experience was. So that premieres. We're actually announcing it today. Actually, it's probably up live as we speak. It's premiering.
I got the semi-exclusive.
Yes, by 40 minutes. We're at the same time because it just announced. So that's exciting for us. We also have quite a few of our talent. We have Deanna Flores. One of the things that brands are really leaning into is they're moving away from the traditional 30 seconds and 15-second commercials, really focusing on storytelling. We joke about this term branded content that has been around forever, but to us, it's really at the core storytelling and better storytelling. So we partnered up with Under Armour for Lab 96, which is their new story content division. So we're doing a short doc on flag football featuring Deanna and another flag athlete. So we're working, that's going to come out around Super Bowl as well, along with, just making more news in the flag space around that time. But it's just fun and exciting for us. Our clients will be out there. We'll have Dion out there. We'll have Michael out there. Like it's really, Super Bowl is where we gravitate to every year and something we look forward to.
Yeah. Also, San Francisco is where the idea for Wear came to be at Super Bowl back in 2016, I think it was. That's where the idea happened. So we will be back in San Francisco celebrating that moment. As Jose said earlier, the brand didn't launch till 3 years later, but that's, the moment that it happened and sparked everything for us. And we'll have a shop for Wear by Ernie Andrews at Super Bowl Experience. With Super Bowl gear and team gear and dueling team gear. So that'll be fun. So stop by.
Amazing. Well, I will be there. So hopefully I can experience some of this stuff in the real world and push some stuff out to the audience as a follow-up. So awesome, guys. Well, so fun to have you both on today. If the audience could go somewhere to see more about what you guys are up to, if you want to basically push them somewhere to learn more about all the cool stuff we talked about today, where would you like to send the audience?
Check us out on our website, smac-ent.com, or Instagram. It's SMAC Entertainment. So pretty easy. It's SMAC. So SMAC without a K. Yeah, excited.
I like it.
Oh, I should also mention, this is our 15th year.
Let's go. Congrats.
So it's an exciting year for us.
Amazing. Well, good job, guys. Keep it up. And I'm excited to follow along at Super Bowl and beyond. And for everybody at home, if this is the first time you're watching the show, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe. If you're listening to the show and you give us an honest review on whatever podcast platform you happen to be listening on, that's how we find a larger audience organically. And if there's somebody out there in entrepreneur land, maybe an athlete or somebody in the sports world, or maybe just a brand that wants to get more involved in the world of sports, don't forget to share the show. And with that, I will thank you, April and Jose, for coming on, and good luck on the upcoming big weekend.